These Altenew layered flowering stencils are incredible. And today I've got two fun ideas to share with you, and we're going to add some textured layers and really take them to the next level. Hello and welcome to another Take Two with Therese at Altenew, and I've got two beautiful floral cards to share with you today. These stencils are huge. Their flowers pretty much cover the whole front of an A2 card, and I have the Gilded Rose and the Golden Day set. So we're going to work our way through the stencils first. I've got the layering guide here, which is on each packet, but you can also find it linked at the blog. Now, I was having a little bit of trouble initially because I did put a sticky mat under this piece of cardstock here, and I won't do that again. I didn't like how it worked out. I just didn't have enough overlap on the edge of the stencil to hold it in place. So you'll notice on the next layers I will start to use some tape to hold my stencils down as I'm blending. They are, like I said, huge, but that gives such a lovely dramatic effect for the flower. Now each of the stencils is labelled, and I find them really easy to line up. One thing I am careful of though is some of those really fine pieces of the plastic. I'm try and be really gentle. Typically use the large blending tool. I find I get a smoother result with that. And this is just some Neenah 80-pound cardstock that I'm using. It's nothing special. And the dye inks do blend beautifully on this cardstock. And don't stress too much if you're not happy with how they're blending. As the dye does seep into the paper, it does tend to even out a little bit more. And we are adding lots of layers here, so don't freak out. It will blend really well. I did use the detailed brush though to add the center of the flower. They're another favourite of mine. So there's 4 layers to the actual Gilded Rose, and I did use the same colours here. I will list all the colours that I've used today. They'll be linked in the description below, but they'll also be at the blog, and that link will also be in the description below. I just love playing with the mixes of colour from Altenew. You could easily, if you're not game, you could easily just choose one of the sets of 4 colours that Altenew create, and I can tell you now, these flowers just turn out beautiful whatever colour you do them. They are really stunning. I do like to mix it up though. And this last section on this rose, just gives such a beautiful depth. So I went for like a pinky red colour there on top of the apricot-y colours. Dare I say. I'm a bit addicted to them at the moment. And how beautiful are these flowers? Like, you could simply leave them as they are. Just add a sentiment, cut them down, pop them on the front of a card. But I wanted to take it one little step further. So I've gone back to my layering guide here. Now there's either the 3rd layer or the 4th layer here that you could use this technique on. I chose to use the 3rd layer, which is actually going to cover quite a bit of the flower design here. So that means I'm going to be losing some of the depth with the 2 layers of ink that I've got. So when I chose the actual glitter drops to use on this particular image, I made sure to use ones that I'm still going to be able to see the blended colour through. On the second image here, I could have used the 3rd or the 4th layer, but decided just to go with the 4th layer, just to give that deep centre, that dramatic look still. But you'll see what I mean in a minute when I do that one. So these are simply some Nuvo drops. It's the glittery ones. And what I like about them is that it's a glitter glue. So it's see-through, and it's only really got the glitter that's going to show through. I mean, it is slightly coloured. You could actually probably colour it up a little bit more if you wanted to by adding some ink to it, but that's a project I might try for another day. Now, initially I didn't put out enough, but that's okay. I figured I could keep squeezing more out as I needed it. I am working fairly quickly here, and I do use the palette knife to kind of scrape away the excess at the end. These jars, you can't really put the ingredients back in, so I didn't want to waste any. And I have a lot of different kinds of Nuvo drops. It's not something I love them, I just don't remember to use them, so I'm really excited to find a really fun way to use them here today. And you can still see the layers of ink coloured in the background here, which I think was really needed to be able to see the depth of the flower still. Now, like I said, this is a glue basically, so I did take my stencil and the palette knife away and washed it immediately. So now I'm going to have some fun. We're going to create our own embossing paste, a coloured embossing paste. And if you haven't ever done this before, it's a brilliant technique to really just add some texture to an image with a stencil, and that's what these layering stencils are great for. Normally you add the layers just with the ink, but if you just want to add that little bit of extra something, this is a really easy and fun way to do it. So I've simply added ink directly to the palette and then added the embossing paste and mixed it up. I wasn't really happy with the colours, so I used some re-inker drops as well, and then just kept mixing until I was happy, because I know that it is probably going to dry lighter than the colour that I'm making on the actual palette. So I didn't rush, I just kept moving the embossing paste around until I was actually happy with the colour, and then I simply just added it over top of, like I said, the final stencil on this particular Gilded Rose. So this, I did need it to be dark because I still wanted to have that depth in the rose. And I just simply laid it across like you do normal like embossing paste, and made sure that I got it in all those little nooks and crannies, and could just use the palette knife to scrape it away. I think that colour turned out really fun. It's a mixture of the Martian Terrain colours and the Grapevine here. I'm glad I put the post-it note down because I would have got it on my card otherwise. But looks amazing. So I did set these aside to dry for quite a while, and now I want to cut them down to fit on the front of an A2 card. So I have a window pre-cut out of a scrap piece of cardstock, and what I do is just work out where I want my portion to be cut from out of the panel that I'm working on. This just helps me visualize it, and then I can come down and cut two sides of this. And when I'm cutting these sides, I make sure that my first cut goes against the trimmer, the base of the trimmer, or if you cut from the top, the other way around, and that way I know this is going to end up straight usually. So then I can just take this panel, hold it against my actual card, and because I want this to cover the whole front of the A2 card, and just put some tick marks, and then I can cut the rest of the panel down. And that trimmer blade cut through the Nuvo glitter drops perfectly. So I decided to make these into two wedding cards. I thought these flowers would be beautiful, especially in these colours. So I've used some espresso ink to stamp out a sentiment, which is from the Fresh Cut Roses stamp set, and I did use some strong double-sided tape to attach it to the front of my card because it was a little bit warped, and that's just going to help hold it flat. So my second card, I've also grabbed another sentiment from the Fresh Cut Roses and stamped it this time with the Grapevine ink, and I've attached it to the front of a card, which is a side fold card, but this time I wanted to add a die cut sentiment as well. So I've got the Fancy Celebrate die. I've die cut it out of some Grapevine cardstock, which is from the Red Cosmos Gradient cardstock set, and I added some dots of liquid glue. Now I just refilled my jar, so it got a little bit overzealous there, but I find if I kind of clean it away before it dries too much, usually works well. To remove the foam, because I did add it to the fun foam because I want to pop it up, I wait for it to dry a little bit, And then I just remove all of the centerpieces of the word first, and then I can just ease it away from the rest of the fun phone. Add a bit more matte medium and then pop it up on the front of my card. So you could do this technique with so many different types of layering stencils. If you've got like any kind of glitter gel, you can color it up to suit your project. You could also use a clear glitter gel and go over the whole image if you want. That would look amazing, or even just portions of it. I hope I've inspired you to maybe have a look at your layering stencils just a little bit differently and maybe add a bit of texture to your designs. If you liked today's video, don't forget to comment and let me know. If you give this a try, please share it with us. That would be awesome as well. Till next time, bye.